Good evening, everybody. My name's John Rock. I'm the chair of the Municipal Regulations Committee, and I will call the roll. The meeting is called to order.
Right, and could you just read that first paragraph here?
Yeah.
Right here,
Okay.
please.
In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which extends the Governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, until March 31, 2025, this meeting will be conducted both in person and virtually via Google Meets.
Okay, then
Yeah.
you can skip the document, the numbers, but the meeting may be recorded.
Okay?
If you could read that.
Thank you. Don't tell me what to do.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I won't. And after you're done with that, if you could just say, this is a public hearing. And
Yes, okay. The meeting may be recorded and may be broadcasted live over SMAC, www.stoughton.org, and/or recorded for later broadcasts and internet access. Don't miss it, folks. To join the, to participate in the public hearing with Google Meets,
You don't have to read all
I'm
that.
not going to read
I'm not gonna
that.
tell you what to do, but you don't have to.
Yeah. All right, so there's instructions how to join. Agenda items may be taken out of order at the chairperson's discretion, and I'll probably mix it around a little bit, maybe. Maybe not. And votes may be taken on recommending articles to the annual town meeting. So the meeting will now be called to order, and I'll read the roll. Okay. Robert Desmond. Peter Murphy.
Yeah.
John Rock. Here. David Billow.
Here.
Peter Machula.
He's online.
Hi, Peter. Joseph Piana.
Here.
Vacant. And Michael Hardman.
Here.
Okay, nice to see everybody. So we'll start, I think, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, the determination of quorum. I think we have, 7 people here? That's definitely a quorum. That's 7 out of 7, so way to go, everybody. Next is to review and approve the draft meeting minutes from the prior meeting, which were distributed online. Do people have a copy of that, or have they read it?
I have read it, I have no comments.
I read it, and I say, good job. Anybody else? Hearing no comments, can I take a vote?
I make a motion to approve the minutes
Okay,
of
thank you.
October 5th.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
You're gonna take a roll call vote since we're online?
Okay, let's take a roll call vote. Robert Desmond?
Yes.
Peter Murphy?
Yes.
John Rock? Yes. David Billow?
Yes.
Peter Machula?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Joseph Piana?
Yes.
Michael Hardman?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, next. Take a motion to open the public hearing. Somebody want to make a
I
motion?
make a motion to open the public hearing.
I second.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Robert Desmond?
Yes.
Peter Murphy?
Yes.
John Rock, yes. David Billow?
Yes.
Peter Machula?
Yes.
Joseph Piana?
Yes.
Michael Hardman?
Yes.
Okay, if I'm mispronouncing anybody's name, please let me know, okay? All right. Okay, so the public meeting is now open, and I guess we can proceed to the first article, which you want to just take them in order?
Yes.
Okay, so Article 45.
Bill Roth is our town planner. He's-
Okay, hi, Bill. You want to introduce yourself to the folks at home?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill Roth, Town Planner. I will start off with Article 45, which is the Stoughton Center District, Section 9.3.4, Stoughton Center District Use Table. What we're looking at recommending, basically, first I'll get it out of the way. The Planning Board has held advertised public hearings on all of the zoning amendments that we will be talking today, so I'll just say that once. They have reviewed it, they've taken in public testimony, and they have voted to recommend approval to town meeting for all of them. So I will start out with the first one. This is, I have kind of an explanation. This zoning bylaw amendment is to remove the limit of 3 or more bedroom multifamily dwellings. This is in order to comply with the state Section 3A, what's often known as the MBTA zoning requirement. The town cannot restrict the number of bedrooms. If the town chooses to not comply with the state requirement, then we will not be eligible for a listing of homeless estate grants and possible fines. I'm sure you know Milton just voted it down. One of the things I really wanted to clarify in that the Stoughton Center District was passed, in advance of the final rule for the MBTA ruling. The previous planner and the planning board actually did a great job. We comply with the density requirement. The density numbers that we have in the flex and transition district, we can easily meet the MBTA requirement. The one thing is, you just can't restrict the multifamily. One of the things is this, the way they did the Stoughton Center District, there are 2 use tables now in the zoning bylaw. One is a separate use table that is strictly for the Stoughton Center District. What we are proposing is changing that verbiage to remove that. The same verbiage is in the regular use table in the other multifamily zone in the town. That's not being changed. This is strictly changing the use table for the Stoughton Center District and would make us easily comply. I have to, as I said, we did a great job when we passed that zoning, or town meeting did. We more than comply with the unit capacity. So, I got to commend town meeting and the planning board and my predecessor. So I'm here to answer any questions on that.
Any questions or comments from anybody on the committee?
I just had a quick question. So currently, right now, the limit is 3, and this is just to expand it as far as the multifamily dwellings. So if I was going to pull a permit, currently it's 3 families. What this is?
No. What this is in the use table, it says entirely residential multifamily. That means multifamily.
Okay.
Provided that no more than 10% of the total number of units at any one time can be 3-bedroom units. So what the zoning currently says that if you have a 20-unit development, no more than 2 can be 3-bedroom. I will let you know from kind of anecdotally, no one, and I said this at the planning board, no developer is building 3-bedroom units. They do not make financial sense. They just don't. Everything that we're seeing, my colleagues are seeing, I'm seeing across the state, is 1- and 2-bedroom developments. No one is building 3-bedroom units. So we have a restriction that really means nothing because the development community isn't doing it. So this allows a developer, if they wanted to build a 3-bedroom unit, but no one's doing it.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So.
Quick question. So is what you're talking about just on Article 45, or does that kind of blend into the other articles tonight as well?
No, this is just for Article 45.
Okay. And then you mentioned about the 2 different tables.
Yes, this is the use table in the zoning bylaw when the town meeting passed the Stoughton Center District, contained within the section, the section 9.3 is an individual use table. The use table for every other zoning district is in section 3 of our zoning bylaw, and that's not being affected.
Is that the table that is in one of the subsequent articles? There's a
The
table.
table in one of the subsequent articles is the table that's in section 3.
Okay.
That's the big one that has everything.
Yeah. All right, thank
So.
you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, how about from members of the public? Peter?
Do I have to stand up?
Just identify yourself, I guess.
Peter Antresco, Precinct 8.
Oh.
Was it too loud? Ooh. Sorry about that. Usually nobody can hear me. All right, question. All right, so in the downtown, what's the limit on the floors? 3, or can they go to 4 or 5?
In the core and transition, it is 4 stories. The core district, which is the main district, allows for a 5th story, provided there's a public benefit, and there's a whole criteria for that. And then it's in the transition, which is the outer one, it's 3 stories.
3 stories. All right, the other question I have, as far as the MBTA wanted us to sign on to go, like, say, a half a mile radius around the square to build apartments willy-nilly, we're not binding to that because we already met quota for apartments, so
Well-
how'd you say that?
No, the zoning that you as a town meeting member passed, the Stoughton Center District, which is core, flex, and transition, that zoning district, which replaced the schmood. At least we're getting better. We're in Stoughton Center District versus schmood. That zoning allowed for multifamily, mixed use, and different things. The density that was put in for the Stoughton Center District, when we ran the numbers, we already complied. So our zoning already complied with 3A, except for this one section, this one thing. That's
All right,
it.
so we don't have to comply with the MBTA.
We already do.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't have to follow their guidelines.
The
lot of
MBTA does not have guidelines. The MBTA said that you have to look at doing zoning within a certain radius. I think about the half mile.
Yeah.
And you have to look at having zoning that allows a theoretical density, which no one, the way it's written, it's as if it's virgin land and nothing's built on it, and then you can build on it. Well, every community in the Commonwealth that is subject to this has the built environment. They just need to provide the zoning capacity if a building burned down or whatnot to allow a certain size density. We already comply with that. So,
But when originally when the MBTA was pushing this for all these towns that are on the commuter line, they were gonna give them, they could apply for special grants. A lot of towns jump on it just to get the money. I'm just hoping that we're not taking that route, just get the money, because they can soon say,
Okay.
keep the money.
yeah, your mic's not on.
Oh, it is? I'm
No.
sorry.
The MBTA did not. The MBTA in the state only gave grants for looking at trying to comply. I think what you're thinking of is a separate program, which was 43D, which was looking at doing, and the state at one time looked at doing higher density zones. That's kind of, I think you're combining several state programs. That's a 43D. That's a separate state program, and we're not doing any 43D. We're literally, our zoning meets the density requirement The only thing is, we can't restrict multifamily, so we have to take the 3-bedroom limit out. That's it.
All right, thank you.
And the consequence of not doing that is you'd be banned from receiving state grants.
Numerous state grants, and the biggest one, I will let you know, and we've received 2 of them, I think, over the last 10 years, is Mass Works, and Mass Works grants typically are $3 to $5 million. And we, not too long ago, got a $3.5 million Mass Works grant. So it's, and we are looking at the possibility in the future of a Mass Works grant for potentially the Phase 2 sewer. So it's, Mass Works is, and there's about 10 other grants also that we take advantage of, not routinely, but we do take advantage of it. So it would be a huge financial hit.
Hi,
If you would introduce yourself.
oh,
Mr. Button. Yeah, he's also.
He's on green.
okay. All right. Ed D. Felice, 200 Ethel Way, Precinct 6. Just a quick question. How does the MBTA get in the business of development? I don't understand that.
Well, it's actually the state, because the MBTA is part of Mass Highway or Mass DOT. And it's a state agency. And the Department of Housing and Community Development, being another state agency, says we have invested money, state, federal, and state taxpayer money for these commuter rails and the commuter rail station to make it more viable. The thinking is to make it more viable is to look at, to utilize the public transit to increase the density around the train stations so that people are less dependent on cars. They can use it to commute in and out of Boston and those sorts of things. It makes sense that if you've invested billions of dollars in this commuter rail system to the highest and best use in and around these is, zoning for mass transit. And this is done all over the country, California, Oregon, you name it. I worked in Oregon in my early career, and they had zoning that allowed for it in and around the train stations to create that kind of user and thing. So that's the premise behind it.
The other question is, what part of the zoning is the hole in the square? What part of that? You named, I think it was 3.
The Malcolm and Parsons project, the hole in the ground.
Yeah, the hole.
Yeah, that's actually zoned core. It's in our Stoughton Center district.
So they can go up to 5 stories?
They would have to. They were approved under the old zoning. If they wanted to, if they could provide a public benefit and meeting one of the criteria within the code, they could petition a special permit from the planning board to do a 5th story.
Okay.
So
Thank
they
you.
could. I just want them to put some steel in the ground and do the 4 stories right now, just like everybody else.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Chair, would you like to ask if anybody on the internet would like
I
to?
will,
Okay.
yes, I was.
Sorry, I
about
mean to tell you what to
that.
do. I know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, thank you.
My apologies.
No, I'm just kidding. So is anybody who's attending virtually have any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Don't see any hands raised,
I don't see any indications, so I think we'll move on to the next article. So, article number 46.
This is what we call the Phillips screw property. Do you have the backup material? I didn't provide any. It was, oh, yes, you do.
Yeah, I think it was sent out, Bob sent it out via
Okay.
an email.
Yeah, we got it from Mark Tisdale.
Yes, yes. So you have the map is really the easiest thing. If you kind of look at the map, it's Phillips Screw, and then there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 houses, single-family houses. That is I essentially call it a spot zone of industrial. In and around the entire neighborhood is all general business. And so if you've ever been to Jersey Mike's, when you pull in the driveway to Jersey Mike's, the parking on the left side is industrial. The parking on the right side is general business. So it's split zoned. The property, the planning board wanted to look at doing this. They felt that industrial, a spot zone of industrial, due to the fact that Phillips Screw has, been defunct and for quite a while, to look at rezoning this to be consistent with all of the surrounding zones, which would be the general business. So it is to rezone the portion that's industrial, which is Phillips Screw, part of the Jersey Mike's parking lot, and the 4 houses, to rezone them to general business. That would then allow the redevelopment of the Phillips Screw property to be more consistent and more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood that has been developed under general business. This makes sound planning policy.
So you don't think another screw company's coming in?
No, actually, I worked in another community that had a screw company and Atlas. Actually, no, Atlas Tack, and Fairhaven. And nope, it's a Superfund site, and no, they're not.
Tax are a completely different thing, though.
Tax and screws, I know, tax and screws. So it makes no sense to have a new industrial use that's just not compatible on Washington Street.
Thank you. So, seems pretty straightforward. Does anybody in the committee have any questions?
What is the condition of the property? Is it okay, everything all set with that, the Phillips Screw property? Because you just mentioned a Superfund site. I know,
Oh, no.
I know it's not that. I know it's not that, but I just wanted.
I should have not said that.
No, okay.
We have no idea. I mean, any industrial property, anyone who would buy it and redevelop would have to do a 21E.
Yeah.
So we have no knowledge of any contaminants or whatnot. But I will let you know, in general, any buildings of that era, some of the heating system probably, it's the standard stuff.
The leakage. Yeah.
Asbestos probably around some of the pipes. There's usually lead
paint.
and there's lead paint, which probably half of us have in our house if you have a house built before 1980. And sometimes there's different stuff within the caulking material. It's the standard things that you would see in an old building that any developer would come in and have to abate, and that's just standard operating procedure.
There might be a few loose screws, too.
There might be a few loose screws.
Yeah, I don't think we gotta go down there, though.
So, yes, Peter. Identify yourself, I guess.
Peter Murphy, I'm actually also on the planning board. Has the owner of the property been notified?
Yes,
Okay, and what,
they did not reply.
they did not reply?
No.
And they didn't reply, so they didn't express any thoughts of what they plan on doing with the property?
No.
Because the other concern is the property itself is in dire straits to be torn down. So that becomes another issue.
Yeah. At some point, if it becomes a nuisance property, then we look at having to have our code enforcement go out and get with the owner and say, hey, this is a nuisance. You need, it's a nuisance hazard. Involve the Board of Health. That's a very in-depth process. So.
We're close to that.
So.
Okay.
So.
I just had one question too, Bob Desmond. I'm assuming the abutters have been notified and everyone's on board as far as that's concerned?
Yes. Actually, 2 of the abutters showed up to the hearing. and two or three of them have called me. They're the single-family residences, and I had to let them know that we couldn't zone them single-family because there's no single-family zone. All the other single families that are in this neighborhood are still zoned general business. So the one question they had is if their zoning changed, were their taxes changed? And I said, no. Taxes are based on the use of your property, not the zoning. So that would not change. They can continue, they're a legal non-conforming use. They can continue to have their house. They can, if it burned down, they could replace it as is. They can do all of those sorts of things. It doesn't really affect them whether it goes from industrial to general business.
Good. Thank you, appreciate it.
So,
So, any other questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I'll throw it open to the general public. If you could rise and identify yourself, or you can sit and identify yourself.
All right. Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8, 587 Canton Street. That particular site is a 21E site.
oh, yeah.
I'm going back 30 years, maybe 25. I was involved with a group down on Canton Street called the Stoughton Citizens Association, and we handle all the pollution that was on Canton Street with half a dozen different companies. And to get straight grants so we could hire LSTs and all that kind of stuff and engineers to go over the work with the hired people that the companies hired, make sure everything was on the up and up, we had to take in this particular piece of property. And what was found there is they were pumping the contaminated water out, but being purified, it should go out into the drains and shipped off the property. They were replenishing back into the ground. So eventually you end up pumping clean water because you're not dragging the contaminated water from a distance in. So that has to be looked in. I'm sure that's still there because we disbanded years back, but it is a 21E site.
Yeah. And any developer will come in and have to look at in dealing with that. That's kind of standard. You have a screw factory. Anyone who takes it will, they're used to dealing with those types of things. Nothing's insurmountable.
I had a question. Can you tell us with rezoning, what possibly could be allowed there under right?
You could identify yourself.
Oh, okay.
I know you already did, but.
Ed D. Felice, Precinct 6.
Well, unfortunately, I did not bring my zoning bylaw. It's any of the uses that are allowed in the general business. So any of those uses that you would see, a shopping center, retail, office, commercial, under special permit, mixed use development is allowed, which would be which would allow for multifamily with commercial or non-residential on the first floor. That's allowed under special permit. So it's any of the uses in the general business. So it's predominantly business office type uses, and then the one is the mixed use under special permit.
A couple other questions. Are condos allowed? Because doesn't this back up to Hemisphere Gardens?
Or what?
The condo, I think it's called Hemisphere Gardens. Does that back up onto this property? It backs up on some other property. I don't know if it goes that far.
Off of Central Street across
Yeah.
from CVS.
So I do not know.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
That may be, excuse me,
No, go ahead.
that's right here, I believe.
okay, yeah.
So
Straight residential's not allowed.
That's not allowed. Oh.
no, but those are two apartment buildings.
Yeah, those are probably were permitted under a different zoning, and when it got changed, it's probably legal non-conforming as well.
Last question is, there's a building on that property, I think it's called Fellowship Hall. Does that have any historic value?
I have no idea. We're not looking at, when we look at the zoning, we're just looking at the zoning, not, I have, if it has historic value, that would be determined at such time that somebody comes in to develop it.
Okay, thanks. No, we don't have one of those.
Any other question or comments from the public? How about from the people who are attending virtually? Anybody have any questions about this article? Okay, hearing none, and we'll move on to the next article, which is, I believe, Article 47.
Yes, this is an article to look at creating a second industrial district within the town of Stoughton, and it would, it provides for a use table for uses, and it looks at providing what our current code doesn't offer is additional design standards. And this is, this came out of part of the Campanelli Industrial Park when it was sewered. One of the things that was, expressed is that we wanted, that the town was working with our regional planning agency and had gotten a grant to look at revamping the industrial district for some higher and better uses. Currently you have an industrial park that is on septic system, and so you can't have higher uses such as office and manufacturing, not really manufacturing, but, uses that have, what you're seeing in there is warehouses. You're seeing warehouses, not big sewer usage. Now that we have sewer there, we were looking at proposing to, take advantage of that. So that's kind of the impetus for the I-2 district. I will not go through the entire, and some of the other stuff. We've held numerous public hearings. I held several public meetings with the neighborhood. Several of the things that we did, if you can look at the zoning map, it's the existing Campanelli. We left the border the same, did not encroach on any of those properties along South Street. There are some large areas between the industrial area and the South Street. Maintain that. One of the things that we are doing that we heard from the folks from Corbett Street and Cornell is that if the old zoning map, the zoning line went from anywhere from about 100 feet offset off of the properties to right on the property. So the industrial district, it kind of wavered. So what we looked at doing is providing a consistent offset of 125 feet off of the rear of the properties of Cornell and Corbett. So that is a change to the zoning that we're looking at proposing. A consistent, and it's, for our sake, it's easier to regulate too. It's 125 feet off the setback, and that's what the thing shows. Some of the other things that I can highlight in the industrial district is, to make it more prime industrial, the I-2 district, the current industrial district, allows a lot of retail and a lot of the stuff that general business allows, and that's really not what our valuable industrial land should be used for. It shouldn't be used for retail, restaurants, McDonald's and that sort of thing. So the I-2 code has taken those retail uses and has eliminated them, or has made them not allowed. And then there have been some new uses that have been added, primarily in the we have warehouse and distribution plants. We have research and development, including research laboratories, product development, prototype manufacturing. These are kind of clean industrial uses, more R&D type stuff. Creative economy, green economy businesses, which we actually have definitions for, unlike some of our use codes that we have no definitions. I'll be bringing that back in another year or two. Innovative makerspace labs and mixed-use industrial commercial to allow for mixing of some permitted commercial uses and industrial uses. And so we also have gotten detailed definitions for those. The other thing that we've done, if you look at the use table, which is the 4.12, we are proposing that the current industrial district requires 80,000 square feet, which is not quite 2 acres. An acre is 43,560 square feet, but it's just shy of 2 acres. And in the analysis, almost 2/3 of the lots were non-conforming. So we've reduced, to reduce some of the non-conforming, we would say it's 50,000 square foot lots, which is just over an acre. We've maintained the minimum lot width is the same as the industrial. Frontage, we have reduced. Lot depth, we've reduced. And some of the setbacks we've reduced. And then, we've allowed the same 4 stories that's allowed in our current industrial district. The biggest change is after that is what we call the special requirements, additional development review standards. And it allows for flexibility for parking strategies. It talks about landscaping standards. We are now including low impact development, which is more innovative use of stormwater, which is also, has been a trend and going to be required anyway, and some site layout development guidelines. The way I describe this is we have site plan review, but it's very nebulous and there's really no standards. This is, in my estimation, and I told the planning board and I told at the last public hearing, these design standards are a start to making taking thoughtful review of the redevelopment of these parcels and really looking at not doing the same old and getting the same ugly result that we have, and having these design standards gives the planning board, and i.e. the town, one more tool in the toolbox to make to reshape and improve the design and quality of development. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I don't want to go through every use, what's yay and what's nay, but that's in the nutshell of pretty much what we've done, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from members of the committee? Peter?
So as being on the planning board, I did raise some concern.
Nope.
I've been trained, I can show you the whip marks. So being on the planning board, living on Peters Drive, abutting Turnpike Street, I raised some concerns about this article and it increasing traffic within the neighborhoods. So that's something, this article itself actually is a good thing for that area down there to develop it properly. As far as traffic concerns, those will be handled at a later time, a later date.
Well,
And I don't want to go into
okay.
that detail.
Yeah, real briefly is that you can't do a traffic analysis on a zoning bylaw because you don't know what's proposed. So you can't take worst case, so, but this allows for increased design standards. It allows for more teeth in what the development looks like. And any development that comes in, depending on the size. And mind you, we're not talking really new development. I mean, if you look, it's predominantly, we're talking about redevelopment and reutilization of the buildings, or when these buildings, they're tilt-up concrete buildings, they have a life expectancy, they're amortized out after about 25, 30 years, and then they can be, they can be repurposed. But those traffic concerns are really based on an individual specific use at that time. So.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the committee? Okay, so any questions or comments from members of the general public?
Peter Ventresco, 587 Kansas Street. I got a few questions here. I don't know if I heard you right, Mr. Inspector, but I think you said all along these, the residential area on Corbett Road, it butts up right to the property line of the industrial park. But I see there's a white, I think you said there's going to be a 100 and somewhat foot buffer zone.
125 feet.
So is that white, everything's in gray, but you got a white.
Right.
Here,
That's the buffer zone?
there's the map. Turn it up, you've got it upside down. If you notice, the
The blue?
light blue is the same residential zone. So we're moving that, we're pushing that residential zone, over the property line for 125 feet. So it's 125-foot residential, which means you couldn't build anything. And then depending on the use, if it's a side yard or a front yard, I'll tell you right now, the rear yard setback is 30 feet. So any new development that would be there's 125 foot, that's just zoning, and then there's a 30-foot setback on their property from the zoning line, so that's 155 feet.
Okay. On this map, where is the solar farm? It's down there at the end of, I drove all through here when they were proposing the sewer. I just wanted to get a layout of the road.
Yeah, I can show it to
But as I remember, the solar farm,
The solar actually meets, the solar exactly meets the 125-foot
Solar
setback.
farm?
Yeah,
oh, okay. 'cause I was
and
wondering-
we're not proposing on changing that zoning.
All right, so the solar farm, that's the exit for them is to go out onto Corbett Street someplace, or how are they getting out of there?
Yes.
Yes.
Like there's a roadway.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then, that
Okay.
answers my question. Thank you.
Can I have my colored map back?
Well, no, it was. Explains it too, it's in.
Yeah.
And then the map before that, it's
Yeah.
in red.
Everything's not black and white.
Nothing is black and white. That's a good one, Peter.
I have a question also. What is the buffer zone going to include? Are you going to have that planted? Are you just talking 25 to, you said 100 open space? Is anything going to be planted there to shield?
Well, it's based on, well,
I mean,
nothing's going to be planted right now because most of those properties are already developed. We're really looking at the zoning is if they were to redevelop, then we have increased design standards and we could require additional buffering, screening, and landscaping. So the zoning will not, it's when somebody wishes to come in for a permit, then we have additional, if you approve this in town meeting, it gives the planning board more tools in their toolbox to increase landscaping standards, talk about parking, shared parking, so we don't, and a whole host of things.
so is all the traffic going to enter and exit on Campanelli Road once this is developed?
Well, we're not, the zoning is not development. Zoning.
I know that,
yeah.
but
It's,
when you get your plans in, they're going to show.
there's no proposed secondary means of access.
Well, there was some talk that some of this was going to be exited out onto Stoughton Street. Or am I in the wrong project?
Stoughton?
South Street.
I'm sorry, South Street.
One of the concepts that was put through that was discussion of that, and that after the two public forums, that and several other things were changed. So there's no proposed access through. But zoning wouldn't do that. If somebody could buy the land on South Street and all the way, it would be difficult to provide an access because a lot of it's protected conservation land and it's all wetlands. So there's, Mother Nature will keep you from doing that.
So overall, if this is fully developed under your proposed zoning, what's going to be the impact of traffic?
I can't tell you that because I don't know what I can't tell you that because I do not know what, if any, of the what uses will change and what the intensity will be.
Well, I would think that somewhere along the line, somebody would take into consideration what's allowed and what kind of traffic those various
We do not spend, when we look at a zoning article, 6 figures on a traffic study of a highest and best use theoretical thing. Traffic studies are really done on a case-by-case basis and what's needed. So, will traffic increase under this? Possibly.
Well, it has.
But
I mean,
I'm going to say it's going to change.
If you're adding buildings,
The goal of this is to change the traffic. It is to have more employment, wage-earning jobs, and people with cars versus semis, tractor trailers, and that. So it's to hopefully redevelop these warehouses into research, development, and provide wage-earning jobs. And so it would be a change in traffic, hopefully to automobiles versus these big old tractor trailers and these trucks.
okay. Thanks.
So, and it's going to take time. This won't, if you pass this, hopefully you do, planning is a long-term game. And this is long, we're looking at a 20, 30-year horizon to try to reshape this in decades to come. What we do today hopefully reshapes this for, I might not be alive, and you guys are a little older than me.
Whoa, you're going.
So,
Hey,
Mr. Chair, something right there.
out of order.
as I've told,
I rule that out of order.
as I've told Mr. Murphy, we're looking at doing this for the future that we might not see. So,
So this buffer land, is this going to increase their lot sizes?
no. It's the zoning, it doesn't increase their lot size.
Okay.
It's we're moving the zoning line from the back of their property, residential.
Okay.
We're moving the residential line 120 feet into the industrial,
Okay.
okay?
So it's just going to be buffer land?
Well, it won't be able to be built on for
Yeah.
industrial purposes.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's in back of these lots.
Correct. And we listen to the people. This is a direct response
Okay.
to listening to the people that came out at the meetings.
Yep.
So, it was, it's a direct response to try to, to protect the neighborhood and,
Yep.
because they feel they haven't, so.
I will say that I was at both meetings, and one as a planning board member, and then the other 2 meetings as a citizen. And the neighbors they spoke up very well. And what they added to the conversation, changes had been made to the original thought of what they were going to do. And this is the results of the request of the neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
We listened to the neighbors,
Yep.
and I changed it.
He
Made
got-
sense.
He got beat up pretty good.
I got beat up, the first meeting, I got beat up. And then I told them I'm doing this, 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 and they didn't believe me, and they still beating me up.
No pats on the back.
So,
Okay, how about members of the viewing public? Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Okay?
Bob Mullen, 19 Clover Lane, member of the public. Bill, thank you for the presentation. Is this the entire industrial area down there on the map that you changed into I-2?
No, there's an isolated industrial triangle adjacent to South Street that's actually we're looking at in the Route 27. It's where the office, the office park that's got I think it's the office park with the,
The Dontus,
it's South Street, there's the church.
Yeah.
That's not zoned. And then across the street, across south,
there is an office
there's
park.
the office park, then there's the auto body, and then there's another office. That triangle is zoned industrial. We'll be talking about that in the fall.
That's across the street from South. Is that what you're saying? It's on South Street?
It's on South. It's the
On the right side?
Park and South. It's on
Okay.
the corner of Park and South.
Office building goes around.
Yeah, it's the office
I got you,
building.
okay.
And then the only other portion that we did not change was, and because we looked at it, it doesn't have, technically, it is Mrs. Walsh's property and the adjacent. Those do not have sewer. Technically, they could be serviced with sewer if they were to redevelop from the back, but not through Park Street. So we kind of refocused it after that first meeting. My predecessor included all sorts of other land, and that's when I got beat up. I didn't even realize it. So no, this is the.
I wouldn't say beat up, just friendly discussions.
Oh no, Mr. Murphy. Oh no, I got beat up.
without naming names, he met a few individuals that straightened him right out.
Yeah. So when I said we're not changing the industrial line, well, I actually lied because I'm rezoning a portion of industrial property residential to provide a 125-foot buffer. But the industrial line that is on the south, which is the South Street folks, that's not changing. And then the two properties along Park Street that do not have sewer, Mrs. Walsh's property and the other, we left it industrial. However, that's part of we're including that right now. That's part of the Route 27. So we made a conscious decision to leave it for now because we were going to look at the Route 27 project, which is underway right now.
Okay, thank you. I have one more quick question, Mr. Chairman. Bill, in the new design standards that you mentioned regarding this industrial two-zone,
Yeah.
part of the design standards and requirements, are they going to make sure that people down there hook up to sewer?
That's actually a sewer requirement. That's part of the sewer requirement.
Is there a sewer requirement for that? Because
Yeah.
I always heard that.
There's a certain time period they have to connect up.
Okay, because I heard that some of the places down there still have not connected.
Well,
I don't want to make
actually,
this.
I'm going to let you know.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Sewer's it hasn't started because we've had supply chain issues with.
Sewer's not in there yet?
It's the pump station is, the parts for the pump station.
Oh, okay. Not hooked up yet?
I think they've arrived and they're being installed and it has to be tested and all of that. So technically, anything that, there are certain properties that have connected because they can be fed via gravity, but everything else that needs the pump station, the pump station stuff was literally on back order for like 9 to 10 months.
Okay.
That's been very challenging.
So not to put words in your mouth, but is it safe to say that once the pump station gets up and running, everybody in that industrial area will be on sewer? Would you be able to say that? Could I put words in your mouth and you say that?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to put words in my mouth. I will have to talk with Mr. Tisdale to find
Okay.
out what the actual language is for the connection requirement. I believe there is a time period for connecting.
Okay.
So-
Because a lot of people keep asking me, I say, well, you got to check with engineering and people like that.
I will
but it
check
goes
with
around and
I will
around.
check and
If you could let me know, I can let people know.
I will send you what the connection requirement is. I believe there is a certain grace period that they have to look at connecting.
I appreciate that, Bill. Thank you very
But
much.
it's in their best vested interest.
Sure.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hearing or seeing no further questions, I think we'll move on
would I?
to, are you here to speak about Article 53?
I am. I was wondering if you would take it out of order.
I will ask the committee's indulgement to take it out of order.
So, Chair, I asked that we take, was it 53 out of order?
Second.
Do we have to do a roll on that?
If you're gonna take a motion, you have to do a roll call.
Okay. Okay, let's,
Who made the motion? Peter Murphy?
Peter. Okay, so let's do the roll call. Robert Desmond?
Yes.
Peter Murphy?
Yes.
John Rock? Yes. David Billow?
Yes.
Peter Machula? Peter?
Yes.
Joseph Piana?
Yes.
Michael Hardman?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do Article 53.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a petitioned article by Beverly Angelos. I'm sure everyone knows her, or knows her husband owned the plumbing business, and they own a piece of property at 20 Perry Street. Actually, it's 2 lots. You can probably see them. That's kind of the site. The area around the actual building, it's a small area. There's 2 lots, and then the other lot horseshoes around it. The lot where the building is, it's zoned general business. The lot where the parking lot is and the outdoor storage and everything associated with the building is zone RU, residential urban. They're requesting to look at having the entire parcel rezoned to general business, so that, the uses could be more conforming, and it looks for, in the future, for any type of redevelopment, then it's consistent to look at doing it. In their information that they've submitted, they are they're not in the Stoughton Center District. They're right near it, and they're very near the train station. They've mentioned that one of the things that they would like to hopefully explore in the future is a, mixed-use building, having the commercial with possibly having multifamily. So, and that's, stated in the kind of their petition. So the planning board reviewed this. It makes sense to them, having these small spot zones. The parking lot and everything associated with the business, it should have probably been zoned general business a long time ago, and it never was. So from a planning standpoint, it kind of makes sense. So I'm here to answer any questions on it.
Okay. Members of the committee, do you have any questions or comments?
Again, just my concern as far as the abutters to the property as well.
Yeah. Everyone was noticed,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
And maybe just one question out of curiosity. So I think at last town meeting, there was some properties where the zoning was very, like, across property lines, and it was business and residential kind of mixed.
Right.
Is it obvious where these are, or do they just kind of come up because, can you screen it and say, okay, here's.
Well, I will let you. I actually, I had a very easy rezone for town meeting. I hope all my future ones are as easy as my first one. I don't believe they will be. I don't believe this year will be. What I looked at doing when I got here, and the board asked me, is I just get up on the GIS system and start looking at these little small spot zones. And as I told town meeting, I told everyone, I've got a lot more of these, not really these, but I've got a lot more of the ones where they cross property lines, or it's like, case in point, the Phillips Screw, the Jersey Mike's, half their parking lot is zoned industrial. It makes no sense. We are going to make a concerted effort over the next couple of years. I don't want to, burden town meeting, but we are going to look at correcting a lot of these, because sometimes the zoning said, 225 feet north of XYZ Street or whatever, and it didn't really reflect ownership and property lines. So we're gonna, there's more. As I said, we just picked the low-hanging fruit and the ones that were the most obvious, making, like the last one, we made residential properties that were existing residential, and half of their lot was zoned business, well, we moved that and made their entire lot conforming. We're going to be doing those in the future. And actually, I asked, and I mentioned to town meeting members, if you know or you have areas, I've gotten like 3 phone calls, and I have a list. And it's just, I don't want to come in with 200 properties, that would be quite overwhelming for town meeting.
I mean, it feels productive to make changes that have the zoning make more sense afterwards. So-
Yeah,
And
so,
So just one quick follow-up, I guess. This is spot zoning now
yeah.
and would be still?
Well, I don't believe
makes
that Lieutenant,
sense.
well, it's extreme spot zoning right now. I think that my experience in working in the other 3 or 4 communities in the Commonwealth, the Attorney General looks favorably on if you're, looks favorably on, we're increasing it, so we're making it less spot. Does that make sense? So
Are you in favor of it? Can you say that?
I recommend, yes. When I looked at it, I feel that, and I say that, I feel that the property that they own that's residential, it's part of their business. It's being used as their business now. So it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
thanks.
What is the size of this lot?
I do not know. I don't know if I have the assessor card.
While he's looking for that, being on the planning board, the family came in asking this request. And I don't know if there was any physical neighbors that were there.
No.
Right, but they were notified, but nobody was opposed to it.
I don't know what the size is. I think I would be venturing to guess that the existing general business lot that's zone GB is less than the 10,000 square foot minimum, just based on looking at this.
Yep.
And then by adding it, the combined area would I don't know what it is, but I can let you know what that is.
Looks like about 2 inches by 6 inches.
Yeah.
That's dot zoning.
So, okay, so that's it for members of the committee. How about members of the public who are in attendance? Peter?
Yeah. Peter Ventrusco, 587 Kent Street. Peter Ventrusco, 587 Kent Street, Precinct 8. Didn't the redevelopment authority buy a piece of property down near here, it's someplace, a little while ago?
Yes.
Yes.
Property, does it show on this man?
I don't know where they bought it.
Oh,
It was,
It's 2-4, Perry.
it was 2 Perry Street.
2 Perry Street?
Right, it's right on
Right
the,
on the corner.
Oh, okay. All right, so, and the other one, the other general business you got in the corner, what's there now?
That's-
It's the the one on the corner. I
Oh,
don't know.
I know what that is, okay.
That's
No,
two-
Wyman Street.
that's-
No, I don't know what that is.
That's 2 Perry Street.
Yeah, that's what the redevelopment authority just
Oh,
bought.
yeah, all right. Okay, I can go along with this, to vote on this.
Okay, so how about members of the viewing public? Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I guess that will conclude, Bill, right? Is it Bill?
Yes.
Bill's participation, and he's free
I
to
make a
leave.
motion that we close the hearings. Oh, no, on the zoning. Oh, okay.
just leave the whole hearing open. Sorry.
Yeah, that would be out of order, Peter.
So wouldn't Bill. Bill wants to be town moderator next year.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you for taking.
I'm glad
Thank
we
you
didn't
for
beat,
taking
I'm
me
glad
out
we
of
didn't
order.
beat you up. I'm glad we didn't beat you up here.
Oh no,
Friendly crowd.
I'm towards the end of town meeting, so
Yeah.
my birthday's in June. I'm hoping I'm done before my birthday.
Okay, so I guess we'll go back to Article 51, single-serving drinking water plastic bottle reduction bylaw. So is the petitioner here?
Yes.
Okay. I guess we'll throw it open to you to talk about the article, if you want to take my...
Come up here.
You could act, why don't you sit here? I actually have to excuse myself, folks, to visit,
Oh,
Okay.
to go somewhere else briefly, so you can take my space.
but you're not excusing from this hearing, right?
No.
Okay.
Hi. I'm Robin Zoll, 167 Cross Street, Precinct 7. I'm one of the co-petitioners on this article, along with Stephen Wilkinson. Actually, he was the one who initiated the article and asked me to co-sponsor. What we're looking at is stopping the sale of single-use, non-carbonated, non-flavored water, and less than a gallon. So we're talking about, oh, this might not be,
It's on. Oh,
It was on.
okay, it was.
There you go. Okay.
Because less than 20% of those bottles are recycled. Because there's no deposit on them, so they're not recycled, and they go into our waste stream. And they take 450 years to decompose. So when you put them in a landfill, they'll be there for 450 years. By 2050, there'll be more plastic in the oceans than there will be fish. So about 25 communities now in Massachusetts, mostly on the Cape, have passed this and have eliminated these bottles. Because obviously the Cape, because of the oceans, it's very aware of the problems with this. You know, and we have, like most of the towns around here, have a big problem with PFAS. I know that Sharon is building a water treatment plant. Braintree Randolph Holbrook, which is a common water district, has just built a water treatment plant because there's too much plastic in our water. So we're just looking to try to get rid of it. When you think about it, it's a very expensive way to consume water because, you know, I was looking at some circulars and like Stop and Shop had water that size, the 16.9 ounce water, and they were selling it for $2.79, which comes to, I thought I had this somewhere here. Yeah, it's over here. That comes to $21 a gallon. So it's a very expensive item that you can easily get rid of because you can buy one of those metal water bottles they sell that you can refill. And it's, you know, and you can refill in your house. There's a lot of places now that have those things like I know the new high school does, where you can fill there's like a water fountain where you can refill a refillable bottle of water. So, you know, that's basically what we're looking at. Are there any questions?
One of the questions I have is, you just mentioned.
Peter, could you identify yourself to a TV?
Sure, Peter Murphy. One of the questions that I have is you mentioned under a gallon. And what happens is I look at your article and it says 1 liter, 34 ounces. That's actually a quart.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
actually,
not a gallon.
yeah. And I was looking at, yeah, well, which is actually a more liberal law than what than I spoke to. But yeah, we want to, basically, if you're buying a big pitcher or whatever, most of the time it's sold in gallons, the water in the store. It's either the small bottles like you have or the, or a gallon.
Okay. And as far as the, you mentioned down the Cape, towns on the Cape have already passed this?
Yes. I have a list of some of them. Mashpee, Chatham, Dennis, Brewster, Eastham, Falmouth, Harwich, Orleans, Provincetown, and Wellfleet. plus, I think, and plus Martha's Vineyard.
Right, okay.
And there are other towns that have passed it too, Lexington, Arlington, Hingham. So it's being done gradually.
Right. I have other concerns with this, and again, the construction industry, it's a case of where if water's not available for the workers, becoming dehydrated becomes a health issue. Now, they could do other things, but by the same token, when you need water in a hurry to give someone during the summer, you need something quick. So if we don't, Stoughton doesn't sell it, they're just going to go next door and buy it there. So I think this will have a drastic effect on, for example, Cumberland Farms. They have the cases stacked up there. And when I was, before I retired, I was working, I would see them stacked up, and then 2 days later, they're going down. So this is the demand for these.
Yeah, well, that they say that, I think it was, the demand has gone up like about, since 2010, the demand has grown about 40%. But the thing is, you're seeing more hydration stations, and, you know, if you have a construction site or whatever, there's nothing preventing them from having a big, you know, thermos or something that you could fill bottles from.
Okay.
You know, you can buy your own thing. They usually are about that big that you can refill yourself.
Okay.
I agree. I have a question.
Yeah.
Mike Carbon, Precinct 8. What about people that use CPAC machines that have to use distilled water? They come in gallons like that, and if you do this, you're eliminating their.
This won't affect distilled water because it's not.
But you're talking
We're
about.
talking about the small bottles.
Okay, but it's a gallon over a gallon. You're gonna look over a gallon. You're not. Why? Aren't
No,
you
we're banning the small ones. The gallons are fine.
But why aren't you doing don't the big ones cause problems too? I mean, we're picking on the little bottles.
They do, but
Yeah.
the thing is, there's just so many more
Right.
of the small bottles, and so we're trying to just not totally, I mean, we can't totally eliminate plastic containers, but we're trying to get some of them out. I mean, most of the small bottles are thrown into the trash
Another question too. Why aren't nip bottles included in this?
because we didn't think of it. To be honest, I have.
That's more of a problem in Stoughton.
And we have no problem. If somebody wants to put an amendment on, we'd be perfectly happy with it. I mean, to be honest, I didn't realize they were plastic.
What was it?
Nip
The
bottles, the nip bottles
Oh,
by liquor
nips.
stores,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we
Oh.
have no problem with, we could add that.
Because that's, yeah. And the other question is, couldn't this be better served by educational platform than restricting people? I mean, it seems like educating people is a better way to do this, because how are you going to enforce this? You're just going to go to another town, and you're going to buy the bottle. and go
Nobody
back.
says you can't, yeah, I mean, that's obvious.
Right, like,
It's just that not as many will end up in our trash.
if they're going outside to Easton to buy it, or whatever towns
Yeah,
have
but
it, they are.
people are not as likely to go out of town than they would just buy it, if you're at Stop and Shop, oh, I'll pick up something. Whereas it's more, you have to put more
Right.
effort into going to another town, so it's less likely it'll end up in our trash.
But when Easton was having water trouble, Stoughton water, people were buying Stoughton. If you went to Dollar Tree, they were selling out the water because the people from Easton was coming to buy it. So, I mean, I think people will trust town lines to buy water.
Of course they will.
Yeah,
But it just will reduce the amount in our trash. That's all I'm saying. Of course, the people are gonna buy it.
Right.
I mean, they did try, before this idea came up, they did try a deposit. They tried to expand the bottle bill, but the bottling companies, the group that was trying to get rid of trying to go for more deposits was being outspent. Actually, they had no money spent, and the bottling companies just came in with a mass. It went from a 70% approval to losing by 70%, because they came in with a massive advertising campaign.
I have one more question. Has anyone talked to the businesses and how this is going to affect them?
To be honest, no, I don't. believe they have.
Thank you, Robin.
But I don't, I don't see that would be a huge impact. I mean, it might,
Yeah.
I don't think there are many mom and pop stores that are going to be that affected by this.
Okay, we do have several mom and pop stores that I'm just worried about them.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about, in looking in relation to the plastic bag passing, a lot of people have gone out of town to go shopping because of that, because they don't want to use the paper bags or recycling too. So, I mean, I think education, getting people to realize why this is important is more
Yeah.
important than penalizing them.
Just that our water supply is being contaminated by too much plastic in it.
But if you educate people doing that, it's a lot more effective. The people are going to do it. If you don't do that, there's nothing.
No, education's
yeah.
absolutely vital, but
Thank you.
people are just going to do what's easy.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments about this? Okay, so none other from the committee. How about the general public? Okay, introduce yourself and,
D. Felice, Precinct 6. I have a few questions. Thank you. A few questions. First of all, I'm wondering where you get your statistics and whether or not you can present those at town meeting. You talked about the oceans and the plastic, which is mostly in the Asian area. And then one of the contradictory things I think was that you said it takes 400 or 500 years for these bottles to break down.
Yeah.
And you stated that one of the reasons for this was because the plastic was getting into our water supply. So if the bottles aren't breaking down for 400 years, how can the bottles that are here now be affecting the water supply? I haven't never
The
heard this.
residue, I mean, I'm not a chemist, I have some information I got. The other thing is that I didn't mention was that New York, California, Oregon, Canada, the UK, India, China, Kenya, and Chile have all banned this. So,
Well, my feeling, I think it was expressed a little bit earlier, is for one thing, you are going to affect local merchants, for sure. There's no question about it. You're saying that you agree people are just going to go out of town and get the bottles. So we're in agreement on that. What I'm not in agreement is that if I, and I don't, but if I were to dispose stuff, along the street or something, and say if I do that with 10 bottles in a week. So I'm going to go to Randolph and buy my bottled water. I'm still going to use the same amount, so there's still going to get 10 bottles for me in the environment. It doesn't make sense because you can't control that.
no, you can't, and hopefully, I think why it's being done this way is that there's hope that the legislature will eventually, if enough towns pass these bans, then hopefully it'll be banned statewide, and that will obviously prevent people from going to the next town.
The other thing too, I think was mentioned earlier, there's a demand for this, and I think you acknowledge that. People like the convenience of a bottle to go to the gym, to go on a hike, for a myriad of reasons and purposes. And, we just seem to be trying to regulate everything that we come upon. You just look at all these things, and I think, maybe I'm a little bit overboard in this, but I think our whole country is being overregulated. And when we get down to bottles that people are using for water and they have a purpose, I don't think we should be regulating that. I think that people should have the right to drink water like he just did.
I have to go refill.
Here you go. And
yeah, he's been using the same bottle for the last 5 years.
so, and you were talking about work sites. People are going to spend a ton of money to put some kind of a hydration system when they can have bottles of water. It's not going to work. And that's imposing a lot of extra expense
First
for
of
these
all,
projects.
people can bring the water from home. You
Yeah, they
buy
can,
a
but-
You buy a big water bottle that's your own, and it, will be insulated, so it will keep the temperature better, because, a regular water bottle sits in the sun all day. It's gonna get hot, but you bring your own personal water bottle, it'll be well insulated, and your water will still be cold.
Yeah, I understand. I think people already know that. And it's just, you're just trying to change behavior. That's what this is all about. And people begin to resent that. If I want a bottle of water to keep even in my car, I should be able to do that, and I should be able to get out in Stoughton or anywhere and drink it. So, and
Nobody's stopping you from drinking it.
no, I'm just saying, you're trying to make it inconvenient for people to go another
Because I
but
want people to think I can bring it from home.
So, is this the place to debate,
Well, I mean,
to have a debate?
well, I mean,
You're
it's-
presenting your perspective.
but it's important. And
Right.
the other thing is, will you bring some of those engineering or scientific background for the statements you made?
Yeah, I mean,
think it's
I'm
important.
going to get together with Steve
Yeah,
Wilkinson
yeah,
before
of
town
course.
meeting, and we'll probably have, to be honest, I did not know I was going to be presenting it. He's out of town,
That sucks.
so that was part of it. And I've been in the middle of budget season, so I've been with my school district and stuff, so I've been a little overwhelmed.
So I would just say that I would be opposed to this. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you were probably doing the whole state, yeah, okay. And most of the towns you cited were on the Cape, and obviously they're looking at the ocean and people going to the beach and stuff like that. But I know you're making a good effort, but I would be against it.
I mean, we have so much PFAS in our water right now, and we're probably looking at putting in some sort of water treatment plant.
But we've never heard, has anybody ever heard of plastic bottles affecting your water system?
Yeah, actually.
But how can that happen?
Well, I think it degrades. It's like the micro.
She said-
Well, anyways,
She said-
just from
Micro.
what I've read, I mean, I'm not either pro or con, but the microparticles, and like I use the individual bottles, I don't really like to. I'm just speaking from my personal perspective. If you have one of those in the hot sun, it degrades a little bit, and I think you're drinking some plastic. So, I mean, I don't know the scientific ins or outs, but I have read where there's so many, you're ingesting microparticles of plastic, but plastic is a way of life. So,
Yeah, it is.
so anyways, but I have, in answer to your question, I have heard about that, and, it's,
There
So-
are two alternatives that might be,
Again,
box water.
Peter Ventresco, 587 Canton Street, Precinct 8. I don't know where this young lady here is getting all the information from, because she referenced China and India doing away with plastic. I find it hard to believe, because the
No, they're
whole,
not doing away with plastic. They're getting used,
that's the way I heard you say that.
no, this was the water bottles.
Yeah, the water bottles, okay. I find that hard to believe, because China and India are the biggest polluters in the whole world. And you talk about plastic being in the ocean. The Atlantic Ocean is clean as far as plastic goes. It's the Pacific Ocean that's dirty with these plastic items floating around, because they come out of Asia and India. That's where you have to go after the people with the plastic, not here. Now, we started a year or two back. We banned plastic grocery bags in the store, which to me is a pain in the neck. And now we're going after plastic bottles. And the next thing is going to be plastic this, plastic that. And then what do? We're going to carry bags made out of wood, steel bags, steel mesh bags. I don't know where this is going to end. And I go to BJ's to get my water because I can't stand the Stoughton water that comes out of my tap. So I buy cases of water. I don't know if it's 36 or 48, but it's $3.99 for a case of water, 16-ounce bottles of water. That's pretty cheap. Okay, so people do go out of town, and they sell trailer loads of water in a week, going out of town to get water. And that's where I get my drink of water. All right, and I'm getting tired of people few people think they're doing good for mankind, but they're making life miserable for everybody.
All right, so,
Now, well,
can
let me finish. Well,
just-
let me finish. We want plastic. They want to ban plastic, period. All right, so you might as well go after the car manufacturers all over the world, because all cars are made of plastic and composites.
Well, I think we're just talking about these
No, but
bottles.
yeah, but that's where it starts. It went with the
Yeah.
bag and went to the bottles, and it'll go to something else. Then the biggest polluters, what do they do with cars when they scrap them? They don't go to a scrapyard. And
Peter, I'm
plastic bottles, let me
Not
finish.
saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, let's save it for the town meeting. She
All right,
presented her
but
the case.
I'm trying to put my input into you people. Hopefully, you're going to vote negative against this article, because we spent a lot of extra money on our trash to separate everything, because the trash, plastic or water bottles go to a place in Avon, they grind it all up, and it gets recycled, not into the ocean, recycled. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Peter. So, how about members of the viewing public? Do you have any questions or comments?
Roberta Harback has her hand up.
Okay. Roberta?
Hi. Roberta Harback, Precinct 7. My major concern over this is that all life needs water to survive. That's the main thing. You're working hard all day long, and it's hot outside. You need to get a water. And I don't know why they're not picking on, I hate to say it, iced tea that's in plastic, a Powerade that's in plastic. I myself don't buy the small water bottles, but that's my choice. But we all need water to survive, and no offense, if you're taking a long walk, you don't want to carry a heavy Yeti or a heavy Stanley cooler with water. You want to drink the water as you go. It gets lighter and lighter. You could squish the water bottle, throw it in a trash or a recycle bin, or stick it in your back pocket. I don't like the fact of water is our source of survival, and I think it's sad that it wants to be banned. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other questions or comments from the viewing public?
Peter Manchula has his hand up.
Peter?
Hello, Peter Machula, Precinct 5. I was just curious whether some of the other locales or states that have implemented these sorts of laws or rules have seen a decrease in, obviously it would have seen a decrease in the sales of the water bottles that are small because they wouldn't allow it. But my concern would be an increase in people just doing the most convenient thing and purchasing another beverage in a similar sized plastic container that was not water, that would typically be even more expensive than the water. Is there any chance that there's any data on that,
I don't have it. I mean, as I say, I just looked up some stuff quickly.
Okay.
I don't know, and we're not looking at those things. We're just looking at the most basic thing, which has an easy solution. The other thing is they're starting to box water, which would be getting rid of the plastic problem, and also canned. Aluminum is much safer.
So,
Thank you.
okay, so maybe at a town meeting, you'll have
Right, I'll have more.
a fact sheet, and
Yeah.
it can be debated fully, but thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Okay.
coming in.
You're welcome.
I hope you don't feel like you got beat up too much.
I expected it.
You should have sat in this chair when this guy got beat up. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Sylvia White.
Sorry, one more question. Sylvia?
Robin?
Yeah.
Robin.
Hello. Sorry I can't be there in person, but I just wanted to support Robin and say that there's extensively documented information about pollutants coming from water bottles. They're the most disposable plastic, the most that go into the landfill. They're very seldom recycled. So this would definitely be our little part in addressing that issue. And if you research anything about our food supply, you can't even look at what a can of tuna fish has as far as plastic. There's documented information about plastic that's coming through all the fish that we eat, coming from the ocean, coming from streams, partially due to even ships that are out in the ocean dumping all their plastic bottles into the ocean, yet it's in the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So they're all polluted with tons and tons of plastic. It's just unbelievable. I hope they'll bring some of that to town meeting, some of that documentation, because it's very alarming. They're even finding babies, looking at the plastics that we have internally have already eaten through our food supply. So this is just one tiny little piece that Stoughton could do to address this issue in a very positive way, minimally. And if you ask about other beverages, the plastic water bottles are the ones that are most frequently purchased. So doing this in a minimal way, and people will eventually purchase their own reusable bottles. If you allow them to heat in a car, water bottles or even juice bottles, whatever, that plastic disintegrates with heat. You're not supposed to refill them. You're not supposed to microwave them. So, if you're not concerned about eating plastic, then I guess you will oppose this, but I would hope that you are concerned about it for yourselves, your children, your grandchildren, that if we end up with the amount of plastic we're using now, we'll just be all killed by it. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It should be a very interesting debate and probably a lengthy one come town meeting. But thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you.
I should be dead. I should be 9 years old. 60 years.
All right, moving right along to another probably interesting article. Last but not least is Article 54, Columbus Day name change to Indigenous Peoples' Day. Is the petitioner present?
Sylvia.
Sylvia.
I can't be there in person, so I figured this is the next best thing.
So if you want to present the article, Sylvia, we would appreciate it.
Sure. I did email everybody a statement that my husband and I put together. I won't read the full statement, but I do thank you for considering this article. I think Stoughton has a long and distinguished history, and we're going to be celebrating our 300th anniversary coming up in a couple of years. However, I think it's worth acknowledging that our history didn't begin 300 years ago. Actually, the indigenous population has been on this land in Stoughton 10,000 years. We've been here long before Columbus arrived on the shores of South America, and then other people migrated up to this area. So I think it's worth considering this. I do want to recognize there are many reasons to acknowledge this at this time in our town. First of all, we have a tragic history around the indigenous population and the impact on the early ancestors, including this would recognize the humanity, culture, and history of the nation's native inhabitants. I'm very small percentage of native inheritance. My husband is more percentage. Our family is much more percentage than I am. This would give us a chance to celebrate indigenous resilience and survival in Stoughton and Massachusetts, and be an impact on recognizing our native population. We would also join, right now there's about 20 cities and towns in Massachusetts who have already changed the name of the second Monday in October to Indigenous Peoples' Day, and the state is also working on legislation to pass this. Towns that have already approved this include Amherst, Arlington, Bedford, Belmont, Brookline, Cambridge, East Hampton, Falmouth, Great Barrington, Holyoke, Marblehead, Mashpee, Maynard, Melrose, Newton, Northampton, Provincetown, Salem, Somerville, and Wellesley. There may be more as of today. These were what I found through the end of the year. We'd also acknowledge the reality of Columbus and the accurate history for the early beginnings of the Americas. We are not responsible for the actions that happened 500 years ago, but we are responsible for what's happening today. We're teaching our children that it's acceptable to do this to indigenous people. And do we want to really teach our children that? It is acceptable to the Commonwealth and acceptable to the United States. We need to change that. We need to change how we teach this early history. And we also need to recognize our discriminatory past. We're living in a time when it is no longer okay to disrespect, discriminate, to disempower, to deny the truth. We can no longer honor someone who does not deserve our respect or admiration. So this is really why we're bringing forth Article 24, but it's no way meant to disrespect Italian Americans or anyone who lives in this nation. But keeping Columbus Day as an historical day is similar to efforts to cling to racist monuments commemorating the Confederacy. So I really think that it's time that as a community, I researched the early history of Stoughton, and there is very minimal acknowledgement of the indigenous population in Stoughton. There are some markers around the community, and this would be a way to honor that. I even looked at my current calendar that I received from the Nature Conservancy, a national organization, and I looked up the first Monday in October, and what it says is Indigenous Peoples Day. So if you look at your own calendars, you'll see that many of them are already acknowledging the first Tuesday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day, and I hope that Stoughton will do the same. Thank you, and I appreciate your allowing me the opportunity to present this tonight.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. I guess I'll open it up for question and comments. It's fairly straightforward. I guess either you agree with it or you don't. But I'll allow for, I guess, limited comments.
We'll start off. Mike Hardman, Precinct 8. I have a real problem with this as a student of history, married to an Italian-American woman, a member of the Stoughton Sons of Italy. You're picking on Columbus. I would remind you, our town is named after Judge Stoughton, who was a judge in the Salem witch trials. Do we go one step further and get rid of the town name of Stoughton? We're also, when you're honoring the Indigenous Peoples Day, we're honoring the people that had slaves when we honor the history of our town. So the question is, why are we rewritten history and not tackling these issues, which are more pertinent to our town right now and our history ourselves? And Columbus Day was started because the Italians were persecuted in New Orleans. 11 Italians were murdered. And the judgment of the Times was, the New York Times complimented this, said it was a great thing that Sicilians were murdered. And that's offensive, but we know we have to look in perspective of when that was written in the history of the Times. I think when we eliminate holidays, we waste a golden opportunity to educate people more about Indigenous Peoples Day. What we're doing is we're taking one out and putting one in, and we're making judgments on Christopher Columbus. And granted, Christopher Columbus has a questionable history, but I think the better way to do that is to teach people about Christopher Columbus and indigenous peoples too, not an either-or situation. And I wondered why you picked Christopher Columbus.
I don't know why they put Christopher Columbus. I mean, it could have been Indigenous Peoples Day originally. I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, why did you pick, the petitioners pick Christopher Columbus and not one of these other things?
That's the day that's being honored as when Columbus, quote, discovered America. Columbus didn't discover America. You can't discover something that's already in existence. It was already inhabited by hundreds of, millions of people were inhabiting North and South America when Columbus arrived here. He actually didn't even arrive to discover America. He arrived to find a route to acquire additional land. So it wasn't really his purpose to even land here.
But under the same logic, the white people didn't discover Stoughton either if the indigenous people were already here. So why we having a 300th anniversary to celebrate something that isn't really a fact? That Stoughton was settled long before 300 years.
Well, Stoughton came much later.
But you're advocating celebrating a holiday for white people that took over Indigenous Peoples Day by connecting it to the 300th anniversary of Stoughton.
Well, that would certainly be an opportunity to acknowledge the early history.
Right, but you're not saying that. You're saying get rid of Christopher Columbus, substitute one for the other. I'm saying I'm asking you to keep both. I think learning about indigenous people is great. I think in a personal opinion, when we whitewash history, we ignore it. And ignoring it is not good because we don't know the sins of it. We don't know if we don't talk about Christopher Columbus and what he did, we're not going to know about it.
They could talk about it on Indigenous Peoples' Day and acknowledge
But then we got to talk about,
how it evolved.
That, so,
I think it's a personal, it's an issue that the town meeting attendees, reps who attend town meeting, hopefully will have the opportunity to make a decision. Many communities in Massachusetts are doing that. Actually, across the country, they're doing it. Some states have already made the change. So I'm hoping that Stoughton will consider doing that also.
but a lot of towns in history are named after a judge in a witch trial.
so let's not get into a full debate about this. We thank you, Sylvia. We understand your intent, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of arguments, pros and cons. At any rate, are there any other questions?
Well, actually, yeah.
Okay.
I don't, Dave Billow, I mean, I don't want to have the debate either, but maybe we shouldn't just have one voice representing one side. I mean,
Right.
My wife's Italian-American, too,
Right.
if you want to, if you want to say that.
Yes.
Her parents her dad came from Italy directly. I love Italians, and one in particular. And I don't think this is a day of saying anything against Italians. It's just saying this one person who, you're right, has a very, I think some people consider genocidal history and kind of representative of thousands and hundreds of thousands of deaths. Maybe that's not somebody that we should recognize. And so it's not Italian Day. It's just Christopher Columbus Day. And I was just, it just makes me think, just today I was at a business meeting, talked to a guy who was from Georgia, very thick Georgia accent. He said, well, I'm the biggest minority in this room because I'm part Cherokee. I didn't speak English when I was a kid. My mother barely spoke English. My grandmother didn't speak English. We were in Georgia, grew up speaking the native language. So this isn't, like an imaginary people that don't exist anymore. These are, true Americans. And I can understand that if you're raising up Christopher Columbus, you're saying, well, this guy killed, however many of your, was responsible or had a part in the death of many of your people. Is that somebody that we want to raise up with a special day? So I can understand, people love holidays. They love to support people from their own country. Absolutely understand that, but there's maybe a little bit more than just we're not, we're being anti-Italian or trying to whitewash history. I think this is the opposite of whitewashing history, I would say. So just maybe
Yeah.
another way to think about it.
Right, thank you very much. That is another way of thinking about it. I'll add my 2 cents. I mean, we honor plenty of people. I think George Washington owned slaves.
Exactly.
So it's just, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a compromise somewhere. Maybe we have 2 holidays, or maybe it's Christopher Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day. I don't know, maybe that's stupid. I don't know. But any more comments?
Joe Piana, I'd say let the state handle it.
Yes, okay, so,
Peter Machulo.
Peter, well, let's go to the public who's here, and then, he's on the committee, so, okay, yep. Peter?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, hi, Peter Mitchell, Precinct 5. I had kind of a technical question, I guess. It seems that the town has the right to rename holidays at town meeting, given the fact that this is up. Does the town also have the legal right to remove and add holidays, or is it just renaming? Could this be removed altogether?
I don't know. Bob, you're the senior town person here.
Bob Mullen, town moderator. I would put that to town council. That's the best way for me to answer that.
I think as far as removing a holiday, for the most part, this is a union
It's a
issue.
state holiday.
What's that?
Actually, a state holiday, so the town couldn't like just decide they're not going to.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of removing it, it's just renaming it.
Yes, counties, it's actually a day off. Suffolk County, I think it's a day off. The schools are closed. I don't know about Stoughton.
Yes, it is closed. Yeah.
It's a state holiday.
It's closed, state holiday. No.
All right, so let's, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add one comment about, first of all, we're not proposing this to be, to disrespect the Italian Americans or anyone who lives in the nation. We're looking at it more as a social and political connotation. And also, I think it should be acknowledged that the best estimate is the death toll of 56 million indigenous peoples died beginning around the 1600s. 90% of the pre-Columbian indigenous population and about 10% of the global population at the time, because of the diseases that were brought through the Americas by the Europeans. This was considered the Great Dying, and it actually lowered the temperature of the planet by enough degrees that it was acknowledged, it's acknowledged in research, scientific research. So the proportion of this and what we're proposing has many ramifications, and it's a piece of history that is lost when you acknowledge Columbus Day and not Indigenous Peoples Day.
So I
To
think,
talk about
yeah,
enslaved, like to equate it as whitewashing, well, it would actually bring more discussion and more information, more acknowledgement to historical study than what's happening now. I mean, we get a day off and we have Columbus Day, nobody talks about it, nobody even thinks about it. Well, when you change it to Indigenous Peoples Day, it will be a day, just like Martin Luther King Day is now a day that people look at history, think about the civil rights movement, think about historical people in the movement, discrimination, racism, etc. And this is a chance that we have as a town to acknowledge this and move it forward.
so, okay, so just one more comment, then I think we need to move it along. Peter?
My question is that you went and you stated, what was it, 10 million people were killed? Where are you getting your facts and data from? Because in your letter that you sent out, it would have been nice that if you had added where you're getting your information from. So it's like, you're picking numbers from someplace, but I have no idea where they're coming from.
So,
Comes to town meeting,
yeah,
at town
I did
meeting, you
some
can.
historical research. Some of it is in the town of Stoughton Historical Society. I took some data from there.
so,
Some of it was other data. I can get the actual document.
yeah, so Sylvia,
should
maybe at town meeting you could,
You should reflect that in your document, that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
thank you, Sylvia. Okay, let's move on to the members of the general public who are sitting here. Okay, do people want to comment? Ed, why don't you go first? And if you could make it brief, time is passing, and I know, but we're not going to,
This is a very important subject, but
it is, but it'll be voted on in town meeting.
reading for my notes here, but I think, I can't hold, okay, thank you, sir. I want to read these because I think there's been a lot of stuff said here that I don't know if it's based in fact or not. I think some of it is kind of outrageous. So I'm going to just read this.
Well, how long is this?
No, it's not long.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I haven't had dinner yet,
Well, this is how I feel.
Yeah, just summarize it, please.
No, it's not going to be a problem. Let me start. Okay. This is my statement. I'm here tonight to express my concern over the proposal for Stoughton to eliminate a federal holiday, Christopher Columbus Day, and to replace it with Indigenous Peoples Day. I, like many Italian Americans, find this not only hurtful, but as an attack on our Italian heritage. Columbus Day is the U.S. federal holiday. It was made a U.S. federal holiday in commemoration of explorer Christopher Columbus landing in the New World on October 12th, 1492. It also celebrates It also celebrates the cultural heritage of Italian Americans since Columbus was born in Genoa, Italy. The first celebration, please, this is very important to me as an Italian.
I know, but
Please.
you can do it at town meeting.
No, not a town meeting, no. It
Well,
also celebrates the cultural
I'll give you
heritage of
2 minutes.
American- If you stopped to interrupt me, I'd be done already. Thank you. It also celebrates the cultural heritage of Italian Americans since Columbus was born in Genoa, Italy. The first celebration of Columbus Day was on October 12th, 1792, on the 300th anniversary of the historic landing. In 1937, by proclamation, President Roosevelt, in recognition of the discrimination suffered by Italian Americans and to honor their contribution to America and to the United States of America and to the world. Since this is just about the end now. I can do. Yeah. Okay. Columbus Day has been celebrated on the second Monday in October. There are many dates. See, I think I missed something here. Let me see. I'm sorry.
I don't think you missed anything.
No, you keep interrupting me. Okay. In 1937, by proclamation, President Franklin Roosevelt, in recognition of the discrimination suffered by Italian Americans and to honor the contribution of American Italians to the United States of America and the world. Since 19, I'm having trouble getting this page.
If you could, actually, if
No,
you could, I know,
that
that's
much
fine,
yeah.
but for the town meeting, maybe write it up and distribute it.
I will.
It's like,
At that point.
okay. And
So,
another minute, and that's it.
okay. And I would close by saying, there are many dates on the calendar, and there's no need for the town of Stoughton to go along with this, to usurp the second Monday in October. I would urge the committee not to approve this. And that's basically what I'm going to say. But I just want to comment on some of the comments I've made here that are very disturbing, again, to me as an Italian and to any other Italian that heard stuff about slaughtering people. When I did some of my research, I saw nothing like that. Nothing like that. And I like you, man, but I'm offended as an Italian to hear that. The reason why this is so important to Italians, because back in those, I'm sorry. The other thing that's really important to us Italians is that this is part of our heritage, and that's why you see Sons of Italy, etc., and statues everywhere in this country of Columbus. And one last thing, I mentioned.
Please don't make personal attacks here.
I feel I was personally attacked, but I'm not.
Not you personally, I don't think so.
As an Italian, yes, sir. I'm sorry, but I don't hold anything against your right to say that. So I'm not mad at you or anything like that. Don't think that. Now, when I was looking at some of my research, and it was mentioned earlier, the largest public hanging was done.
Yeah, I gotta stop you here. We get the gist of it. I think you're really against it, and it's.
I don't tell you why I'm against it.
But I think better yet at the town meeting.
Fine, that's fine too. But there were 11 Italians hanged that day, right? And they were charged with murdering, I believe, a police
Right.
policemen.
And I remember the
However-
case of Sacco and Vanzetti,
Yeah, that's
you know,
what- that's-
so,
And however, although they were acquitted of this, the jail they were in was raided by these people and they
Right.
killed all these people.
right,
So
yeah.
there's a history here.
Absolutely, and you're right. And so you presented a powerful argument, and thank you very much.
Thank you for letting me speak.
No problem, and I'm sorry for interrupting you. So, Peter, if you could keep it relatively brief.
I got 12, okay. Peter Ventrusco, 587 Canton Street, Precinct 8. I hope your wife isn't hardcore Italian, because she is, you're dead. All I got to say. All right, so Columbus, when he set out from Spain under Queen Isabella, funded him to come across here to find two things: to prove the world was round, not flat, and trying to find a shorter route to get to India. Okay, so when he landed, he didn't land in South America, he landed in the Indies. That's why he called them Indians. Okay, now, that was in 1492. So according to this petitioner, this woman here, Mrs. Whiting,
Sylvia.
okay, she said it was in the 1600s when there was a mass migration, murder of all these 10 million Indians. Well, that's 200 years since Columbus came here. So basically, she's saying Columbus didn't really kill anybody. It's the English that took over the country and the French and the Spanish that did it. Not the Italians, not Columbus. Number two. All right, so I'm against this day being changed, because it's an insult to any Italian-American or any pure-blood Italian. And if you want to get the true history, you got to read old history books. They were written by the people that made the history, not the history books of today where the revisionists are writing everything, so you're getting a distorted picture of how they want it to be. I'm tired of all these people. You know, they did away with the South, pulling all of statues because there was a civil war. Well, good or bad, that's our history. We have to honor that. You learn from history, not by erasing it. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter, and thank you for keeping it brief. So,
I got a lot more to say, but
I know you do, believe me.
Sam, you got all that 2 minutes.
Okay, so anybody else from the viewing public? And thank you very much, Sylvia. As everybody can tell, this is not going to be an easy discussion, but something that we look forward to.
Could you clarify what your vote is tonight? Is your vote to approve the regulation?
I think the vote after the public meeting will be the kind of whether or not to recommend at the town meeting, either, by a vote of the members of the committee. So.
I guess I would just like to acknowledge the statements from the last speaker that Confederate monuments are being removed throughout the country for the primary reason that they are acknowledging people who were murderers.
But, yeah, that's a whole nother kind of can of worms.
I'm not rebuttaling her if she keeps going.
No, that's another whole, so, I mean, in my humble opinion, like, both things can be true. So let's end this here so we can go.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, and so let's go around the room. Then, thank you very much, Sylvia, and for everybody, and for our two members of the public. And Robin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was a very, I thought this would be a quiet little committee, and like, but thank you very much. So let's, to close the public section of the meeting, Robert Desmond? Yes. Peter Murphy?
Yes.
John Rock? Definitely yes. David Billow?
Yes.
Peter Machula,
Yes.
Joseph Piana,
Yes.
and Michael Hartman.
Yes.
Okay, so now the public portion of the meeting is concluded, and we'll move on to the next section, which is, oh man, discussion of the articles. I think they've probably been discussed. So if there's any objection, maybe we could move on to just taking a vote.
No objection. No objection.
Do we need to, that's a motion, somebody want to make a
I
motion?
make a motion, we waive discussing.
Okay. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, let's go through. Robert Desmond?
Yes.
Peter Murphy?
Yes.
Well, you hesitated.
Okay, no.
I'm sorry. John Rock, yes. Peter Billo? David Billo?
Yes.
Peter Machullo?
Yes.
Joseph Piana?
Yes.
And Michael Hardman?
Yes.
Who made that motion?
Peter and I second.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so let's,
Actually, reversed.
Do we know? I did, oh, it's reversed. I did, and he's second. yeah.
okay, so
Motion
let's just
patent.
go through the articles, and I'll just briefly read the title of the article, and
Take a vote on it.
yes, take a vote on it. So let's start with some of the less controversial articles. Article 45, zoning bylaw amendment, Stoughton Center District. Does anybody want to summarize that?
Well, someone should probably make, if you don't mind me, Mr. Chairman, jumping in, someone could probably just make a motion to recommend the town meeting, the article,
Okay,
and they can vote it up or down.
okay, fine.
And if you want to allow discussion on it, it's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if it's up to me, I say no. All right, so do we have a motion to consider Article 45, the zoning bylaw for the Stoughton Central District?
I make a motion that we vote on whether to recommend to town meeting. What's the right word?
Second.
I would say, make the positive motion. I make a motion to recommend Article 45 to town meeting.
Okay, and that's how we'll go through, and you
Pretty
either
much-
vote yes or no.
Making a motion to recommend it to town.
Okay, so Peter, you made a motion to
Motion.
recommend it to
I'll
town meeting.
second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so, okay, Mr. Bob, so we go ahead and take the vote?
Yeah, by roll call.
Okay, all right, so let's go through the roll, and it's a yay or a nay, so.
Or do you
Robert
have
does,
comments?
So Article 45,
yes.
I'm a yes.
Peter Murphy,
Yes.
John Rock, yes. David Billo,
Yes.
Peter Machula,
Yes.
Joseph Piana,
Yes.
Michael Hardman.
Yes.
Okay, so that takes care of, Madam Recorder?
So in summary, it's 7-0, right?
7-0. Okay, so now Article 46, zoning map amendment. May I make a motion to recommend that to town meeting?
I make a motion that we recommend to town meeting Article 46.
I second.
Okay,
All in favor?
so,
No, it's going to be a roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
yes, so Robert Desmond,
Yes.
Peter Murphy,
Yes.
John Rock, yes. David Billo,
Yes.
Peter Machula,
Yes.
Joseph Piana,
Yes.
Michael Hardman.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 7-0 for Article 46. Article 47, zoning bylaw amendment, zoning district, section 2-1, established of zoning districts, yada, yada, yada. Can I have a motion to recommend the town meeting?
You've been doing good.
I make a motion that Article 47, zoning bylaw amendment, as earlier proposed, to recommend to town meeting.
I second.
Okay, Robert Desmond,
Yes.
Peter Murphy,
Yes.
John Rock, yes. David Billo,
No. Yes.
Don't save your nose for later on. Peter Machula,
Which is the good one again?
Yes.
Joseph Piana,
Yes.
Michael Hardman.
Yes.
Okay, so let's take these out of order. We'll go with Article 53, rezone map 54. I think that was the spot rezoning one. Would you-
I make a motion for Article 53 to recommend to town meeting for approval.
I second.
Thank you. Robert Desmond,
Yes.
Peter Murphy.
Yes.
John Rock, yes. David Billow,
Yes.
Peter Machulo,
Yes.
Joseph Piana,
Yes.
Michael Hardman.
Yes.
All right, now comes the fun ones.
Okay.
So we'll follow the same process.
Well,
Somebody will make a motion to recommend the town meeting, and then we'll either vote yes or no. Okay. All right, so Article 51, single-serving drinking water plastic bottle reduction bylaw.
Make a motion to forward this article to town meeting.
To refer to the town meeting.
We refer it to town meeting.
Right,
I second.
an easy way out. It's supposed to take votes.
we are. We're going to take a vote.
Wow.
Yeah, no, okay, this is the way we're doing it.
The
so-
committee, the chairman, well, if he accepts that motion, that's
Right.
fine.
Okay, so you recommended to refer to
For
town,
town meeting.
refer to town meeting. Okay.
Refer or recommend?
Refer.
Refer.
Oh,
Make no,
Oh, really?
not a positive vote or a negative vote.
Oh, no, okay, no. we
Are you
went
saying recommend the town meeting?
Yeah, so, so if you make the motion to recommend, then people can vote yes or no.
You have to recommend, if you recommend it in a positive motion, but then it can be voted down.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was,
Okay, so you want to rephrase that?
You don't want to refer. You want
what I
to
originally said. I'd like
Okay.
to,
Recommend. the town
recommend.
Recommend the town meeting.
Article 51, single-serve drinking water plastic bottles reduction bylaw. I make a motion that we recommend to town meeting.
Right,
I second.
okay, let's go through the vote. Robert Desmond,
Don't we have one more to do? 54?
excuse me?
Do we do 54? We just do the bottom one.
No, we're doing 51, and
Okay.
this is
Yeah, okay.
the
I'm
bottle,
sorry,
the
sorry.
plastic bottle.
Sorry, my fault.
Peter Murphy,
No.
John Rock, I vote yes. David Billow,
No.
Peter Machula,
Yes.
Joseph Piana,
No.
Michael Hardman.
No.
Okay. So what's that, 5 to 2, I think. Five against, 2 in favor.
Yeah, so if he.
Reverse that.
2 to 5.
Right.
It loses.
Right, right. The next article is Article 54, Columbus Day name change to Indigenous Peoples' Day. If
Okay.
somebody wants to make the the motion,
See, I've gone this far. Article 54, Columbus Day named change to Indigenous People Day.
I second.
I make a motion that we
recommend the town.
recommend to town meeting.
Right.
I second.
Okay, let's go through the roll call. Robert Desmond?
No.
Peter Murphy?
No.
John Rock? No. David Billow?
Yes.
Peter Machula?
Yes.
Joseph Piana?
No.
Michael Hardman?
No.
Okay, that likewise is 2, 4, and 5 against.
So that loses too. That
Right.
loses also.
All right, so,
I
it's
make a
been-
motion that we close the public, that we close the, adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn.
I second.
are you sure?
You can stay here all by yourself.
It's before
Don't
10.
Shut the TV off. The TV guy's gone home.
All right, so, do we have a second for that?
Second.
Okay, let's go through this, and I hope everybody votes the correct way. Robert Desmond,
Yes.
Peter Murphy,
Yes.
John Rock, definitely yes. David Billow, Peter Machula,
Yes.
Joseph Piana,
Yes.
Michael Hardman.
Yes.
Okay, so that concludes.
Can I just say one
today's meeting,
thing?
And yes, you
Mr.
may.
Chair, I just want to thank you for being the chairman. Great job. Appreciate that, John Rock. And thank you all for showing up this evening. All 7 members that we had showed up.
Yes, it
Either
was
online
great
or
turnout
in
and great
person.
turnout by the public. Thank you, everybody.